daily report, and this is May 6th, Wednesday, and we're just happy to be alive. And just being alive is something else. And I can look out at my yard here and see things going. I hope we don't hear those guys with the trucks in the background here fixing up my street. I closed the doors. I've done everything I can. I think we're going to be all right on that. Uh, this is my 1 week of reports here, and we're just trying to show faith in news. And one of the important people, I think, in the city of Aurora, I'm glad to have with me today is Diane Renner, the executive director of the Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry. And I don't know how long I've known Diane, and her husband is a baseball coach, and I've been to many of his games in the past. He's retired from that baseball high school, but he is was a great coach and is a great coach still. And this thing's got a Dave DeVecchi autograph underneath there from the ball player Dave DeVecchi, who came out several years ago and spoke to young people in our church even. And so I just had to wear this today. I like to wear it, actually. It feels very comfortable too. And of course, I'm covering up. I didn't show you what I'm covering. That's how it works. We're covering up. Well, anyway, I've known Diane probably, I don't know, 10 years, 15. It's a little while. And I've known her at my church and in some ways through Kiwanis, and she has a good co-worker with her who's at Kiwanis. That's Kathy Farrell, right? Kathy Farrell.
Correct.
Yeah, and she's in our Kiwanis Club of Aurora. So we have a little history here. So, and I've done food pantries, mobiles, and a few other things, and schools with the school and with Kiwanis. So we've had a connection with the pantry here. And I think I've told this to Diane. I have dual loyalties to these pantries because my parents were involved in the other pantry early stage. I mean, real early when my mom got involved calling. I don't know. They had to call the government to get dried milk or something like that, or I don't know. And my dad went to Aldi's and picked up food for him, and so I have an affinity there too. So, but this pantry here is my love, and we'll just I think it's a little on the higher side because I know Diane real well. So she maybe understands a little why I talk about the other pantry, the Aurora Area Interfaith Food Pantry. So just thank you for being here, and we're just trying to show faith in news, and that's what we're trying to do. And this is a work in progress. I hope this goes well. Sometimes we have glitches. We're hoping no glitch today. It looks pretty good so far, so we'll just keep going. So I'm welcome Diane Renner with us, and Diane, like I said, I've known you a little while, you and your husband. Can you give us a little background on the food pantry, Marie Wilkinson?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the food pantry has been in existence since 1957. Marie Wilkinson started a food pantry out of her home. Why are you shaking your head?
Wow, that's a long time.
Oh, yeah. So it's been over 60 years. She started it out of her home when there was a need in the city, when a mushroom farm had burnt down, and she got a call from a pastor from St. Nick's Church saying, how can we feed these families that are now without homes, because there were a lot of workers that lived on that mushroom farm site. And once she got going, she just never stopped. She just kept pedaling and pedaling and pedaling. And the Highland location that we're in now, it was her third site that she had after moving out of her home.
Yeah, I'm going to show, I got something else here. Where's that nice picture? I have a nice picture of Marie. We'll squeeze everybody in here. There's Marie down at the corner there. And I got to meet Marie, that's a long time ago. She was in her 90s then, and she came to First Press. We gave her a Love of Aurora Award. And she did a lot of, she did more than just the pantry, right? She started a lot of groups.
That's right. She
Yeah,
started over 60 organizations. You know, on a side note too, today is her birthday, the day of her birth, and she would be 111 today.
111?
Yeah.
Well, that's about up to where my dad is right now. If he was alive, he'd be about that old too. Well, maybe a little less. So you've been with how long? How did you get involved with the pantry? I didn't throw that on you, but I want to ask you just briefly. How did you get into the pantry work?
Well, I started out as a board member here at the pantry, and there was a time when the company I was working with had gotten sold, so I was in between jobs, and the board had been wanting to make some changes here at the pantry. So I said, well, while I'm in between jobs, let me come in and make some of the changes that we're talking about and would like to see happen. And that was 10 years ago. It got into my heart and my soul, and it was something that, you know, after a couple of years, my husband stopped asking me if I was going to look for that job because I really kind of found it. It was something that just took over my heart.
Amen. Amen. Um, I want to show something here. This is, I'm just going to backtrack 1 second here. I had this picture. I thought I might as well show it. It doesn't show it all, but Diane was with the city the other day and they had a nice little chit chat. So if you want another chit chat, at the city of Aurora at their website or at YouTube. So I just wanted to bring that up, which I found out a little more about the food pantry here by listening to some of your comments there too. So when did the pantry experience its shutdown or whatever you want to call it, retooling of its quote operation here with the COVID-19? When did that happen about?
Mhm. That was really middle March, of course, when everything hit, and we put a team together to see what was the best way to service our guests, and we decided to go with a modified shopping where we packed most of the perishable items, but let people come in 7 at a time. That was before the social distancing was really into play, and people could still shop for their deli, their dairy, the meat, the produce, and the bread items that they wanted to take home. And then when it got a little bit worse with the social distancing and stuff, that's when we went with the full drive-through process.
The drive-through. Uh, well, we can get more into
Yeah,
that
so
here. We can do more on that. How compare? Oh, geez, I just hit my table. Hope it probably re-vibrated all over. Sorry about that, folks. What? How did? Yeah, you're right, Diane. That was crazy. Uh,
that's you though, John. That's what we love about you.
it's crazy. What? How can you compare this year and last year on the amount of people that you're seeing, or how can you give us some idea of the difference now? But
hmm Yeah, well, I did do a quick analysis of the first quarter of 2019 in regards to what the first quarter of 2020 was. And we were already up 102% from last year to this year without the COVID situation. And then when the COVID came into play, it went up another 312%. So this year compared to last year, our first quarter was really up 419%,
it's quite
which
a
is
bit. It's quite a
quite a
bit.
bit, quite a bit, quite a bit.
Now, where's your location at? Where are you located at? I know you're on the west side. Where are you at there on the west side?
Well, we're actually on both sides of Aurora. Our main campus headquarters is at 834 North Highland, which is on the west side of the river. And after doing surveys with our guests, we determined that the east side of Aurora really needed some more assistance over there too. So we opened up a food pantry on the east side of Aurora in, I want to say 2015.
Really?
And then we outgrew that space very quickly, and then we moved into East Aurora High School.
Yeah,
So
I've been
now
with,
we
yeah, I've been
so
with
now
you at
we have
East
2
High.
sites.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
And you have a distribution to the younger ones at the high school. I mean, when that's in session, not right now,
Yeah,
but you were doing
yeah,
that, what, twice a month, or was it? At
it
the high
was
school with the high school
twice a
students?
month. Mhm. And we would order food specifically for the students, and it contained, um, everything that they would get in the food pantry. We had the deli, the dairy, the breads, but they didn't get a lot of choices. We had one type of vegetable, one type of starch, one type of cereal, because the students didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of picking and choosing. So if they wanted cereal, there was one kind to pick from. And what we also did was our order form were based on making a recipe. So each student also received a recipe of, and then the items that they needed in the recipe were there at the pantry. So they could go home and make a meal for their whole family based on what they had picked up from us at the end of their school day.
Well, that's what I'm not married to have any children. I'll have somebody make me a meal right now. Okay, have your kids make a meal for you. That's a nice idea. And so that's, oh, and then you at East though you do a Saturday. How's that one?
Yeah, we do it on Saturdays on the east side of Aurora because we're also hitting families from the west side and the surrounding areas that can't get to food pantries during the regular work week, but still need some assistance. And we're here to help supplement their food, not provide for the whole week. We just, give them some basics and can provide at least 4 days of food for them. So a lot of people that go and visit our East Side Pantry aren't only from the east side of Aurora. They're from all over the surrounding area and even the west side, but it's got just better hours for them to do some additional shopping.
Yes.
And that shopping, for free food.
Yeah. And how are you distributing the food now? I think we've touched sort of on it, but give us a little more insight on that. How are you doing the before you? What
Yeah.
would we call the shop? What they call the in shopping, or I forgot how your
Well,
term.
we have free market, free client choice shopping where they can
Yeah,
come in and
I
pick
think other
the
places
items that
do
they
that too,
need.
but
And
now you've had to change,
unfortunately,
right?
yeah, and unfortunately, during this time, that's just not available to do. So we pre-box the basic necessary items that they need, always with peanut butter and fruit and vegetables and breakfast and snacks, but also we pre-bag some deli items and dairy items, and we don't necessarily put those in the boxes. When they come through, the first thing they do is they check in, and we still have to count for every person that comes in. And that is just the Feeding America and Northern Illinois Food Bank's guidelines. So we do still are able to check in our normal guests that come in, and we know who they are, and they have a Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry card. And if they're not a regular guest, we ask them for their birth date and how many adults and how many children, so we can still capture the correct totals rather than guesstimations. And then they drive to an area after their trunk has been lifted, and they can tell us which type of meat choices they would like that week, and we put that in the trunk. And then they drive around and we give them the box of food with the staple items in it, and ask them if they want deli and dairy, because some families do not want that. And then they would drive through a little bit further, and when we hand them a lot of produce and ask them if they want some additional potatoes and onions, which we always have available also, and lettuce. And then they get their bread items, and then they just drive on through. It's a very quick process. We're very organized, very detailed, but we want to make sure that people are getting what they want and not just giving them things just to give away. And we don't want to waste food. We don't want our guests to have to receive food. that they don't want. And of course, you can always say to share, but that's not going on right now either. People are not visiting their neighbors like they used to, and nor should they be.
I
But
don't know.
both pantries are operating that way.
I don't know if I
Or
want
used
to
to.
ask you this one question. How you've had this increase? How many cars or how many come by on what days are you there on that on your pantry there, and how many come by about, would you
Well,
say?
that's another good question, John, because our West Pantry was always open 2 days a week, and then our East Pantry 1 day a week. But we've also added one extra day of giving to try to keep the traffic down a little bit and stuff too. But we have another group that started helping give out food to people that were in the restaurant and retail industry, and that's operating now on Tuesdays. And when that first week started with them, it was about 88 families that came through,
Right,
and it's been as high as 190. And that's a fairly new distribution with the Relief Coalition. And you can find more information about them on reliefcoalition.org. But it just adds one more day of servicing our community. So now we're actually operating 4 days a week.
4 days a week. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to ask, what are the qualifications to? Oh, I think no, we didn't. What are
Well,
the qualifications? You said about the card and what else? That's
yeah,
about it, right?
at this time, it's too difficult to have them fill out any forms, and we don't
Right,
want them
right, right.
filling out any forms and using pens and stuff. So we are just getting their birth dates because we're on a system here with the Northern Illinois Food Bank where a lot of the people that normally visit food pantries are already in the system by their birth date. And so if we get their birth date, we're able to capture that they visited, and all of their details about them are already in the system. If they're not in the system, we still ask them how many adults and how many children so that we can still capture the correct individual numbers that we're servicing.
Yeah, and you have many. We're going to ask you a little more about stories and what you can talk, but here's a little interview you did with one of your people that came by. What was this, a
Mhm.
few months ago or pretty recent?
This was just last week.
Really? Well, we're going
Mhm.
to play that. It's pretty short, but it should work. Well, it's high tech. We'll see. It was working before. Here we go.
So you're in line today, and you're going to get food from the Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that help you when we give donations of food for you to bring home to your family?
You're going to get food
I'm so grateful for
from
it.
the Marie
I mean,
Wilkinson Food
I live with
Pantry.
my mother, but she needs help, and she has arthritis. Sometimes she can't
Does
get
that
to the
help
store,
you when we
what have you.
give
So I come here,
donations of
and
food
we just really appreciate it.
for you to bring
so
home to your
much.
family?
Is there anything that you think that we could do? I mean, we changed the parking a little bit to accommodate cars and stuff like that. Is there anything else that we could do at this time that could benefit that you can think of?
I think it's since I've been coming here for the
Is
last few
there
years. I mean,
anything that you
everything
think
is
that we could
just
do? I mean, we
so
changed the
convenient,
parking a
especially
little
the parking
bit
lot
to
now. I mean, everything
accommodate
is
cars
everyone
and
is so
stuff like
nice
that.
and so helpful.
Is there
I mean, I can't think of
anything
anything.
else that
Good.
we could
Okay.
do at this
Well, that
time
always
that
makes us
could
happy to
benefit
hear,
that you can
and
think
we
of?
want you to feel welcome here at the pantry. Do you feel like you're welcome and coming to the pantry here?
Definitely. Every
Okay.
time I come, everybody's friendly, and
Okay.
definitely.
Well, we are glad that we could help you, and thank you for coming to Marie Wilkinson Food Pantry.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, that always makes us happy to hear, and we want you to feel welcome here.
I hope that came in good. Got a little feedback on my side. I hope it came out good there.
Yeah, it just buffered a little bit. That was our volunteer, Nancy.
Who was
That,
interviewing?
yeah, who was interviewing.
Yeah, that was nice.
Which
So,
we are 95 or 98% volunteer based here.
well, how many volunteers do you have right now? I know you're probably doing different volunteers during this crisis, right? You're sort of
Right.
got your regulars or however you want to put it, and then your staff. How many volunteers do you have working right now?
Well, at the moment, one, and myself. But like today, we had a distribution and we had probably 12 volunteers, but they
Right.
weren't all in the same area. And we do still adhere to the recommendations of social distancing, even with our volunteers. So there were 12, but they were in different stations and not near each other the whole time. There were no more than 6, in the distribution center at the same time.
Yes.
We can get a lot accomplished,
Uh-huh.
though, with
Let me see. Do you have any unique stories you want to tell us about that's been happening at the pantry that you want to share right now? Or
John, we always have stories, and we always have wonderful stories. I will tell you about an individual that we had here that was unemployed, and he would ride here on his bike. And he was only here for about maybe 4 months, and then he got a job, and then he would come back every week and would give us money. And the first time he came, we really didn't want to take the money from him because we knew that he was still, trying to get back on his feet. But we could tell that he really wanted us to have it and he wanted to give back. His name was Tim. And he was just so thankful that we were here for him during his time of need. And he continues to give back when he can.
well, that's great. That's a great story. And here's a volunteer in the picture that I have. I don't know. This is pretty early in the crisis, I think, but one of your volunteers.
It was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you've been
Mhm.
pretty active in different ways in the community doing these. Let me see. I want to see what else I got here. We got some more stuff here. Yeah, we got some more. I got a couple more thoughts and questions. How how do you help the disabled seniors or others, or maybe are COVID restricted right now? Do you do any? Is there any, or you get some people to help on that, or how does that work? I know you maybe some you do with senior associates too, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Excuse me. Well, before this whole thing hit, our Wednesday distribution was really dedicated to our seniors, our disabled, and our veterans, where they could come in and shop at a time where it's not open to the public, and it gave them a little bit extra time to make their food choices. Because as you can imagine, when you're trying to get, excuse me, so many families through at one time in a short period of time, we're kind of like asking them to make their choices very quickly and move on. So on Wednesdays, we have enough time to give the disabled and the seniors a little extra time to make their choices and to get around the pantry and to um, grab all of the items that they know that they need and would take. Now, during this drive-through process, that really hasn't come into play anymore. I mean, of course, we're here still on Wednesdays, but we're not adhering to only seniors and disabled and veterans on Wednesdays. The general public is coming in on Wednesdays as well. However, we do work with the Senior Services Association where we pack up some staple items to have in a shelving unit that we provided at their new wonderful facility on Plum Street. And when the social or when the caseworker goes to visit a senior and they know that they're in need of food, they will grab this bag and take it with them to when they make in their house visit. And just yesterday, I got another email from Nancy at Senior Services that they needed some more bags, that they, even though they had 100 at the beginning of the week, the beginning of the month, they were down to 5. So we're going to be sending more bags to them tomorrow.
Well, that's
Thursday,
great.
restock their inventory. I gotta remember to do that.
Those seniors get somewhat a little different type of food requirements or food
Yeah,
things.
we always make sure that they get their proteins.
Yeah,
We one big thing that we like to give out is Ensure Boost, because it's got the nutrients in it for them.
right.
Um, Canned meat or canned chicken always, and of course the nutritional fruit and vegetables as well.
How
And
can
milk, but the milk that
excuse
we
me?
try to give to them is either lactose tolerant
Mhm.
or almond milk or even coconut milk.
Okay. I've been doing almond milk lately myself, so
We do it as well.
I guess I'm a senior. I guess that proves that.
No, 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 no.
We won't talk about that. It's terms. It's terms we got.
Well, it's become a very popular choice
No,
of,
it is. It is that, and yeah, that is soy milk, that type of stuff. Yeah.
mhm.
How can the community help with funding? There's a need there still, right?
There is a need. Before the COVID, we used to order from the Northern Italy Food Bank 3 times a month. No, actually 4 times a month, 2 at each pantry. And now we're almost at every week for each pantry, which has increased our spending dollars. But there's plenty of food at the Northern Italy Food Bank. We just need to make our shopping choices very wisely when we shop with them, and try to keep our costs down. But also, the most important thing right now is to make sure that we are ordering and giving out the things that are needed for these families and individuals that are visiting us during this time.
Yes. And
Monetary donations are always appreciated, and the community has been such a giving community during this time that we haven't really had to go out and ask for too many donations. We did for Giving Tuesday the other day because it was Giving Tuesday, but it's always very appreciated, and just people's prayers and thoughts about us, and our volunteers too, to keep them safe. We have very strict protocols here, and we want to make sure that our volunteers continue to be safe and healthy during all of this. We're all working harder, longer, and more frequently.
yeah, and I know you're working hard because we've been this interview to pull it off here. You've been doing a lot of things, so I know you're very busy. Uh, is there a need for other types of volunteers? I mean, right now you're probably set on that somewhat right now. Am I not correct on volunteers? But maybe skilled volunteers. That's another angle. Skilled.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing that we didn't mention is our garden. We have a
Ooh.
wonderful community garden across the street, and we would take volunteers there any day and any time. The manager of our garden is Rob Bond, and he has a not-for-profit called Charity Blooms. It's charityblooms.org, and he kind of oversees that whole thing. But the garden is phenomenal, and it's growing and changing all the time. And we are taking more space now. Presently we have 3 lots that we've turned into a community garden, and we just acquired 2 more lots across the street as well. So we're going to be even enhancing and growing that. And that's not just for us to grow, but it's for people that can't have gardens in their backyards, or if they don't have a backyard. And Rob is always very helpful in teaching people on how to grow. And I think this is going to be a real good future for a lot of people right now, is thinking about maybe starting to become more self-sustainable and grow organically for themselves.
It's an interesting point.
We have a lot of volunteer opportunities for there as well.
Okay. Well, I've placed on the bottom of the screen here the website to contact the Marie Wilkinson Pantry, and for donations or just general information about the pantry. And I just thank Diane for being with us. Is there anything we missed here, Diane, or you want to?
I'm sure there is, John.
I'm sure
It's
there
really
is.
hard to
Probably
talk
there
about
is. But
how we
we've
do it.
covered quite a bit here, I think, today. And okay, give me those times again when the pantry is at your main location. What days and times are those?
For distribution?
Yes.
Okay. So on Tuesdays it's from 3 to 6, Wednesday from 12 to 2, Friday, 1 to 4, and our East Pantry is open from 8:30 to 11. And that's in East Aurora High School in the back by the loading docks.
Right. Okay. I wanted to catch
Other than that,
that.
it's 84 North Highland.
Yes, right. And well, I just wanted to thank Diane for being with us and chatting with us this afternoon. And it's been a really blessing to have her. And we're just we'll leave you on the screen a moment more, Diane, if you don't mind. Your lovely
No,
face looking at us.
John, thank you so much for having me. I
Yeah.
love talking about the pantry. I love talking about our community and just helping our hungry neighbors.
Well, thank you very much. And tomorrow I'm just going to give you a little update. That commentary that I had yesterday, we got to redo it. It had a little problem there in the audio. And on Thursday, I'm thinking we're going to talk about haircuts and prayer, because on Thursday is the National Day of Prayer. And remember that. And it's all day you can pray. You can walk around your block. You can do other things. But TLN and is grouping with friends. I think maybe some of you know Reverend Dan Haas, who was with us last Friday. They're having a noon to 1 Facebook Live. I believe it's on their TV channel too, but I know it's on Facebook Live. Noon 1 to 1 p.m. And I'll give you that little address here if you want to know where that Facebook is. That's Facebook at TLN Chicagoland. So that's going to be tomorrow. It's coming around the corner. Things are moving here in May. And so that's, then we got one more thing. Friday, we're going to have Susan Sperry, the Regional Director of Chicago World Relief, is going to be with us. And I just thank Diane again for being with us today. And we're going to say probably God bless and bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.